Hi, Jim. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure. So can you tell us a little bit about your current role at Infragistics?
Yeah, I'm a senior UX architect at Infragistics, and it's pretty much pretty similar to UX designer role. It's just a name that we give it. So I'm in a team that works on Infragistics products. So we're a software company, so we work on some of our company's products, but we also do external consulting, design for external clients that want to do some user experience design. So in our team, there's user experience architects and there's visual designers. So as a user experience architect, it's kind of a combination of research and design. So I do the upfront research with the clients to understand their needs and what they're looking for and their business needs, and then go out and do user research. Could be contextual inquiries, could be interviews, or a variety of different techniques. And then we'll do the design, doing everything from site maps, interaction diagrams, and then creating wireframes, and then eventually creating prototypes that we'll test then with users and usability testing. And then our final step in the process is just annotated wireframes, and we give those to the visual designer who takes over and does the visual design from there. And we try to kind of make sure we collaborate with the visual designer throughout, so it's not just kind of a strict handoff from one to the other. So it's kind of a better process that way.
Okay. And how did you get your start in UX? And were you already in it when you started the HCI program?
No, actually, I was in film and video production after my undergraduate, and I was in the Chicago area, and that's where I grew up. And I didn't really like it that much. I was looking for a career change. And so I was kind of realized I needed to go back to graduate school, and I was kind of looking around at different types of things in the computer field, and I looked at DePaul and I saw the HCI program, and it really combined some things that I really kind of always was interested in: psychology, design, and computers, and it sounded really interesting. So I started taking classes at night while I was working during the day, and so it took me about 3 years to get my degree, but about halfway through the program, I started looking for jobs. I actually quit my job that I was doing at the time, just kind of got fed up with it, and started looking for jobs in user experience, and I eventually got an internship at Bank One. I interviewed at a lot of companies, but it was kind of hard to get into because I didn't really have any work experience directly in design or in research. So I got an internship, and then shortly after that, that was around 2000, and that's when the whole .com bust happened, and all these companies went under, and every other company that I interviewed with went out of business within like 6 months. So I was kind of kind of was lucky that I went to this sort of boring corporate job, sort of boring, but it was good. It was an internal group working on internal intranet sites and web applications for the bank, and I got a lot of good experience. And after about 9 months or so, they hired me on full time. They liked the work that I did, so that's really kind of how I got my start.
Great.
Yeah.
For students and new graduates to UX, could you share any advice on how they can break into the field?
Yeah, I think well, getting a degree is really good. I specialized in design research for a while. Initially, I started off kind of as a generalist position, but I found that in research, especially a master's degree or even a PhD, a lot of people had that. So if you're going to kind of specialize, getting an advanced degree is really good. But internships are really good, always in pretty much any field, but this is a good field to. An internship gives you, projects you can put on a portfolio. It also gives you a lot of good connections with people in the industry. And I think also a good thing is connecting with people and staying in touch with people, networking. And the people that you go to school with, initially when you all graduate, you're all looking for similar jobs, but within a year, you have people that you've worked with, people in your classes that are now in other companies, and so that's really a great way to find jobs is, people you went to school with, and then people in your internships, connect with them, stay in touch through, LinkedIn, connect with anybody that you work with, and, most companies have a referral program where they're trying to find new employees, and and fellow employees are referring people they know and getting bonuses that way. So it's really kind of a good way to get into it, is really kind of the people that you know. Besides that, I think just having a good portfolio, and it seems like now is a really great time. There's probably never been as many user experience jobs out there as there are now, and there's never been such a recognition and knowledge of user experience as there is now in the business community.
Great. So I know many of my classmates are already working in the field. Can you share any insights into transitioning between different roles in UX?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positions. Most of the positions out there are kind of generalist roles where it combines research and design. I think it's better to start out in kind of a generalist position unless you want to specialize in just doing user research. So I kind of started out in a generalist position where I was doing research, design, usability testing, and even visual design. And I did that for about 6 years, and then I had to kind of make a decision whether I wanted to take a job just doing design research. And so I did that for about 7.5 years. And I think it's easier to go from a generalist position to a specialist position. And I kind of wanted to do that because I really like doing user research, and I found that really interesting. But then I found it was really hard to go from a specialist position back to a more generalist position like I'm in now. So because I didn't have any sort of design projects or any kind of design samples to show anybody that I could go back to doing design, and I kind of wondered myself, can I haven't been doing it for 7 years, can I get back into doing design? And I found I was able to, and I was lucky. I was able to convince people and get a job here, and I did pretty well. So I think one of the things is that if you go into that specialist role, that's great if that's really what you want to do, but it's kind of hard to get out of that. I would say if you're going to go into sort of a specialist role, such as a user researcher, it's best to kind of stay mobile, because there are research jobs out there, but I think for every one research job, there's probably 100 just generalist user experience designer jobs that do research and design. So I'd say stay mobile, or go to a place like San Francisco where there's a lot of big companies that have specific research teams, so you can go from one company to another. But that's definitely something to consider. Seems like there's a lot of positions now that are looking for somebody who does research, design, visual design, and then even coding. So I mean, I think it's hard to find people like that, but I'd say start off in a generalist position and see which area you like to specialize in, and you can always go in that direction if you want.
And what classes or activities at DePaul do you feel best prepared you for your UX jobs?
I think they were all pretty useful. I think they gave me a good base. I think the psychology jobs kind of gave me a insight into how people think. Those were useful and interesting. The design classes that I took were very useful. The HCI classes, just practically in terms of evaluation techniques, usability testing, principles of human-computer interaction, and principles of design and usability were helpful. I think probably the classes have changed since I was in the program a little bit, but some of the things I didn't use was like data analysis, and not that that's not useful, but just in the jobs that I had, we were doing more qualitative type research, not so much quantitative research. But I think they were all useful. They kind of give you a good sort of background. You learn a lot on the job when you get into the job, definitely. But I think the good thing about HCI is it doesn't really change. The way people, of course, there's always new things, but the way people think, psychology doesn't change. The principles, the basic principles of design and usability, those things don't really change. There's always kind of new techniques to learn, and new developments in the field and new technology to kind of learn about, but you can always apply this basic HCI knowledge that you get to pretty much any new technology or any new developments in the field. So that's what I really like about it. It's not something that goes out of date. You just have to kind of keep up with some of the new things that are going on, read articles and things like that, publications.
So I know you've written some articles on Agile methodology and UX. Can you briefly describe how you successfully incorporate Agile into UX design?
Okay, yeah, just at a high level. Ideally, what you do is do user research first outside of the project, so that gives you enough time to do the research, and you're not kind of limited to that sprint cycle with a limited timeline and all that. So if you do your user research up front, you have that information. You can start with kind of in sprint 0, do just a design sprint. So design sort of the basic overall design in that sprint. You know, you can do usability testing, short tests, you know, just a day or so, a couple days, and test out the design. And then throughout the regular Agile process, throughout the sprints, in each sprint, you're designing and doing usability testing on what the developers are going to work on in the next sprint. So you're kind of working one sprint or sometimes 2 sprints ahead of what the developers are working on. So by the time the developers are starting to work on developing the design you've created, it's already been tested, it's already been checked out, it's been evaluated by the stakeholders on the project and users. And while they're working on implementing that, you can also evaluate, just answer their questions for what they're working on in the current sprint and look at what they developed in the previous sprint to make sure that the design is okay and it matches what you intended. So it's kind of like working ahead like that is really kind of at a high level what the best process is.
Have you faced any objections from other UX team members about using Agile methodology, and how do you talk to them, or how do you try and convince them that Agile's the doable in UX design?
Yeah, I could understand that. I don't think, you know, I'm not a big, huge fan of Agile myself. I mean, I know that it can work, and there's been companies that have made it work with user experience. So I think if people don't like, you know, being in an Agile development company, I can understand that from the user experience perspective. I would just encourage them to, you know, try to improve the process and make sure that it incorporates user experience as much as possible. If they don't like it, I mean, they can always go to another company, because there's a lot of companies that don't do an Agile process, and that's fine. So I would just say, you know, work with what you can. I mean, a lot of times you can't really change the company, but you can try to make the process as good as possible for the user experience. And if you really don't like it, you know, you can find a company that doesn't use an Agile process, and you'd probably be a lot happier there.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jim, for joining us today. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
For everyone out there, if you would like to connect with Jim and other Ask Mentors, you can visit ask.depaul.edu. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.